Okay. Ugh. I hate a neck, a collar on the shirt. It just feels like you're being choked. I like it loose. Ugh. All right. This is an audience of one intro. This video is sponsored by YouBuyWeRush, who says that if you buy it, he'll speed it out to you. I don't know what that is. It could be anything. It could even be a boat and a candle. I've seen him do it. I've never seen him do it. So this is another Janiversary. It's an older video, but he says cover him, so we're going to cover him. See me click that thumbs up. If you want to do that, hit the subscribe button. That helps out tremendously. You can still request a video. Just takes a little bit longer to get to. But if you donate to the channel and you request a video, you kind of get priority status and you get your name sponsored in that video. Not everyone does. Still request a video. You just don't get that shout out. It just takes a little bit longer to get to. It is what it is. So we're going to go ahead and do this video.
Welcome to an audience of one. My name is Nick, and I'm just another troubled soul in this world trying not to give in to the evil thoughts that plague us all. The thoughts that you're inadequate, that your mistakes are insurmountable, that you're too old to change, or the idea that you're beyond forgiveness, hope, mercy, and acceptance, or any of the other ideas that prevent us from fulfilling our potential as human beings and giving the world the gift of our presence and all that our best selves have to offer. I've always loved helping people, especially when it comes to seeing them work towards self-improvement. I love seeing people actualizing their goals and reaching their full potential, which is oftentimes far greater than what they themselves saw themselves as being capable of. For many years, I've worked with people to motivate them spiritually and motivate them to actualize their goals and be the best person that they can be in every aspect of their lives. And unfortunately, over the years, I've never been good at taking my own advice. And for years, I've fought a really difficult battle, mainly in my head, which is that God can forgive anyone, just not me. In the past, I used to be very active online and in the communities that I lived in, but over the past several years, I've faced a lot of difficulties and, difficult situations externally and sometimes self-inflicted that have really just gotten the best of me. And so for a long time, I removed myself from any public engagement on any social media platform or really in any other forum in person. Part of it was due to anger, frustration, and resentment. And a lot of it was also due to the fact that I always felt inadequate, that whatever shortcomings that I had were, in my mind, magnified to a point that they were insurmountable. I get that we're all human, and I get that we all make mistakes and nobody's perfect, but for whatever reason, I could never accept that for myself. And I would let it eat me up inside to the point where it would paralyze me from continuing to do any good. I always thought that my shortcomings somehow disqualified me from benefiting others. Even though I knew that this was an impossible standard that nobody could live up to, I still held myself to a standard that I couldn't live up to. There were many times that people would ask me if you're ever going to produce anything online, and I contemplated it quite a bit back and forth. I think in the beginning I had no interest whatsoever. But after a while, the idea kind of continued to pop back into my head that I wanted to produce something, that I wanted to be in some capacity having the ability to benefit others.
You can see a drastic change from how he is now. I'm sorry, to how he is in this video, which this video was 10 months ago? Yeah. 10 months ago, where he is just kind of putting things out there to where you see him with the newer videos. And I just keep thinking the Janiversary, but that's the site. But you know what I'm talking about, the newer videos, where the newer videos he seems to have, I don't want to say found himself, but he's found that he's comfortable with who he is. This is weird because I'm watching someone who, for whatever reason, doesn't feel, maybe the channel was very new, and I'm sure if you watch my early stuff, I'm probably terrible, but he's, maybe it's just not a comfort thing. He's in his own head, as he said, but you can tell that he is really, in 10 months, found who he is and how he communicates, and things that he shares, because he's very matter of fact. He's very da 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 da, and if you don't like it, you don't have to watch. Like, he knows now who he is. And so watching this, I can relate to the feelings of inadequacy and stuff like that. I get it. I think we all can. So when you say things like this, you have to also understand that you are talking to a lot of people who are going to understand. They're not going to understand in terms of the path that you've walked. I'm sorry, I keep popping them peas, baby. They're not going to know in the path that you've walked. But everyone's path has obstacles that they've encountered. And I feel sad right now, but I see the person that he's become in the later versions of his videos, and that is a stronger person that just doesn't seem to doubt himself. So I'm really curious to know how he got from here to there.
But there was a complete lack of desire to engage on social media in any form, just due to the unfortunate toxic nature that we as a society have created on these platforms. And then there was always that nagging sense of inadequacy, that I wasn't good enough to be in the position that I'm in right now. There was definitely a concern for, what if somebody finds out I'm not as good as they think I am? And all of these negative thoughts were very paralyzing for a good amount of time. And they still try to creep their way into my psyche and discourage me from getting behind a microphone and a camera and saying what I feel needs to be said. I always felt like I wasn't good enough. I always felt like there was a level of spirituality that I had not yet attained that, again, disqualified me from being the person who's justified to sit in this chair or in front of a camera or behind a microphone. Unfortunately, this mentality of you're not good enough to do good at best leaves you void of good deeds. And at worst, when there's a void of good, it opens up the door for bad. This creates a downward cycle of not doing good and then doing bad, which makes you feel worse and discourages you further from doing any good and opens the door for doing more bad, and it becomes this vicious downward cycle.
I watched a movie once. Wish I could remember the name of it. It was an awesome movie. It was a two-parter. Side note. Two-part movie about, like, Russian vampires. Oh, it was so cool. It was very weird. But there was a saying in it. I saw it maybe 20 years ago. But there was a saying in it that always stuck with me. And I thought, what a great saying. And the saying was, not that. The saying was, it's easier, and just side note, you might have heard me say it before on the channel, but the saying is, It's easier to kill the good inside of you than to fight the negative around you. And when I first heard that, I was like, hmm. And then you start thinking about it, and you're like, you see two people in an argument, or two people bullying somebody. You know, if you're on a train or you're at school or something, it's easier for you to just walk past and ignore it instead of stepping in, because it's harder to take on whatever punishment or wrath is going to come from that by doing the right thing. You know, you don't want to step in and just instantly right in the face. You know what I mean? And I thought that's just a tremendous thing. Which is a great saying. And it was also they also said it again. I want to say they said something to the effect of, it's easier to kill the light inside of you than to fight the darkness around you. And then it was changed to the good in you, the evil around you. And either way, it's such a great saying. And it's always something that I always think about when, if I'm seeing something that it's like, and you have that moment, it's like, do I say something? And I figure it's easier to say something, not in a way of, hey, you know, you knock that off, or insert some kind of threat. But if you just, hey, come on, then you're letting other people know that maybe it's two people picking a fight with one person. Well, you're just letting them know, hey, it could be two people, 2-1-2. And a lot of times people in those positions don't want a confrontation. They just want to pick on whoever it is. And I'm just using a bully as an example. But yeah, it's a great saying, I thought.
And if you know, you know. To an outsider, all of this sounds illogical, but the mind can be a maze that can be very difficult to navigate. Eventually, I got to the point where I decided that regardless of whatever mountain of sins I had piled up, that I've never been doing as good as I was doing when I was spending my time trying to and preparing for trying to benefit others. Although I've never felt ready, I still don't feel ready. I've slowly come around to the idea that I'm never going to feel ready. I'll never feel like I'm the right person. I don't think I'll ever feel like I'm good enough. And if I ever hope to even get close to feeling like I'm good enough, I know that that's not going to happen by me passively watching from the sidelines. So at this point, I've come around to the decision that I want to be active again in producing content online and trying to benefit others. I have no intention of trying to get back to where I once was or where I think I once was. I think that's a trap that many of us fall into. We romanticize about where we once were, a state that we once held, that we believe if only we could get back to, that it would fix everything. And unfortunately, our efforts oftentimes to get back to that time or that state, and our failures to do so, often cause us to stagnate any efforts to improve ourselves, because instead of just trying to get better than who we are today, we're stuck comparing ourselves to who we think we once were or might have been. This effort is about a fresh start, and I pray that it helps me to reach levels that are far better for me and for everybody else than what I was hoping at some point in time to get back to. So what is this podcast all about? This podcast is going to be a personal letter to me from me. A couple years back, a friend that I had at the time was suggesting that I, put myself out there, produce content, and he had suggested that I start with an idea that if I were to advise myself, what would I say? And that idea helped give birth to this podcast, and that's exactly what I'm going to do. I've spent a lot of time over the past couple of years contemplating this idea and taking down a lot of notes and writing up a lot of the content that you're going to get access to as I go along through this process. There were many ideas that I had for, if I were to get back active, what would I produce? And this idea continued to resurface in my mind over and over again. There's a lot of reasons why I think this is the best place to start. There is a lot of performative content that's out there, meaning that I'm going to put together this video or this lecture series or this podcast because I want you to like it. And my primary focus is thinking about what the audience will like, what the audience needs to hear, and that oftentimes gets adjusted based on what the audience wants to hear. Whereas in this instance, I don't really care what the audience wants to hear, but I know what the audience needs to hear. What I also like about this idea is that many of the communities that I've been a part of, I've often felt that, man, I can just never find anybody that I can relate to with regards to people who are producing content. It's just very hard for me to listen to somebody and feel like they're speaking to me. It's hard to listen to a lot of people and feel like they're even being sincere. And in the positions that I've held, I'm often the one who's delivering the advice and giving the motivational support. But that doesn't mean that I myself am not in need of that as well. But unfortunately, just due to whatever circumstances exist out there, I found it near impossible to find people that are speaking to me on my level in a way that I can relate to, that's really basic, down to earth. I just always wish that I could find someone who could speak to me, someone that could deliver a message that wasn't littered with excessive rhetoric, technical language. And so, combining all of those ideas is leading me to do exactly what I'm going to do, which is delivering a series to myself. Essentially, this is a podcast for me, by me. And each episode, I'm going to start by walking myself off of a ledge all the way to building myself up to a strong spiritual, mental, emotional foundation, and trying to take it as far as I possibly can. This is not just a theoretical exercise. This is actually something that I feel that I need on many different levels, because I need to hear the stuff that I need to say. Again, I've been really bad in the past at taking my own advice, but if I can't hear it from anybody else, I need to at least start speaking it into a camera or a microphone and then just play that stuff on repeat while I'm driving so that I can hear the things that I need to hear, because, maybe even as I'm saying it right now, it's not hitting me, and it's not penetrating into the heart as much as I would like it to. But, I know that there's a lot of things that I need to hear, and in the absence of having somebody else that's going to tell me the stuff that I need to hear, the next best thing is to say it myself. On top of that, the process of preparing for something like this means that I have to constantly be thinking about, what would I say to somebody in my situation? How would I advise them? How would I encourage them? How would I motivate them? And that process in and of itself is extremely helpful and motivating to me. But that brings up the question, all right, who's this for? Why are you putting it online then if it's all about you? And there's two parts to this. The first is that, yes, it is for me, 100%. I'm putting this up there for myself. The reason it's going online, first and foremost, is a form of accountability. So now I have a deadline that I have to constantly think about this project and make sure that I am moving it forward each and every single week. Hopefully that accountability helps keep me consistent in my efforts. And the process of preparing to put these shows together constantly puts me in a reflective state of, how do I improve myself? How do I improve my relationship with God and with those around me? And all of that in and of itself is a benefit. Second is that there's no reward for good but good. And I need to stop waiting to become good in order to do good. Rather, I need to do good as much as I possibly can on my way to trying to become great. The second reason is that I have a sneaky suspicion that I'm not the only one who could benefit from hearing this stuff. It's quite possible that this goes nowhere. Nobody ever listens to it. Nobody follows it in any way, shape, or form. And I'm just sitting here in an echo chamber talking to myself. And I am 100% okay with that because, again, this has got to be about me for me. I have to help myself first and foremost before I can try and help anybody else out. And up until now, this is the best idea that I've come across in order to do that. And I personally feel like it's the most sincere thing that I can do because, again, most of what you see online is all performative, right? You're going to listen to people talking, and there's so much rhetoric and technical language that oftentimes isn't for you. It's more for the ego of the speaker, just so that they can validate that they have the right to speak. And anybody who is on any social media platform producing content and they aren't deathly afraid of their sincerity and their intention behind what they're doing is already way past gone. Most people, when they're putting content together to put online, they're thinking about, well, what's going to go over well with my audience? What are they going to like? What are they going to share? What's best for the algorithm? In my opinion, you can see it. It's obvious. It becomes performative. I want to run from that like the plague. I've fallen into that trap myself, so I'm not immune to that either. But I can tell you it's extremely liberating to have the feeling that if you don't like it, I don't care. If you don't watch it, I don't care. If you don't listen to it, I don't care. If you don't like it, I don't care. If you don't share it, I don't care. The audience is me. That's who I'm talking to. But again, I think that it's quite possible that there are a few people out there, maybe 2 or 3, that could relate to some of the situations that I've been through and that I'll speak about and the advice that might pertain to it. And if I just help one person, if I'm able to reach somebody who, like myself, felt that there's nobody out there that's talking to me on my level, if I'm able to reach that person, then that's an enormous success. That would make every minute, hour that I put into this more than worth it. And in the strange possibility that a lot of people benefit from it, then that's just good upon good, and that's all you could ever ask for. So I'm going to be putting this together for me, but preparing for it as if it will be embraced by many. Worst case scenario, I produce something that helps me improve spiritually, emotionally, and mentally. Best case scenario, we create something really great. So what can you expect as we move along? Again, this is a podcast for me, by me, so I'm going to be addressing myself. I expect these episodes to be short and sweet. About 20 minutes is the goal. This is not going to be a long, drawn-out lecture series. Again, this benefits from the fact that this is by me, for me, and oftentimes I'm left wondering, why are we droning on and on and on? At the end of the day, we just want to get to the point, hit us with what we need for the day, and keep it moving. With regards to the content, you're just going to have to wait and see. I can guarantee you that it is going to be very unorthodox from what you're typically used to. If you're looking for the traditional lecture that you're going to find most places that you go to, then I am going to assure you that you will certainly be disappointed with what I'm about to produce. And if that is the case, then I advise you look elsewhere. The podcast will post up every Friday, and it will also be available in video format on YouTube. Teasers will be posted throughout the week leading up to the episode on Instagram as well as YouTube Shorts. One important point that I want to make is that I will not be engaging with people in the comment sections of social media. Unfortunately, they're often very toxic places. It's nothing personal, but with regards to the negative comments out there, I do not feed trolls. I think it is bad for the environment, and I don't suggest you do either.
When there are some that will make a very... If I put on a video and you don't like it because I was snacking on candy or something like that, like I'll have the mic muted. Hold on. Only took about 4 attempts to mute the mic, but I'll do that. And there are some people that say it's annoying to watch me eat. And I just tell them, in a perfect world, I would have more time in my day to be able to eat my food and then sit down and make videos. But unfortunately, the world isn't perfect. And sometimes I have to eat while I'm doing the video because I need to get videos done. I'm just nice like that. Other times, people will tell me, your reaction was garbage and you should give up and go play with your dogs. And I will ask, what about the reaction did you not like? I don't like you. Okay. I'll say, if you could send me a picture of yourself, I can tell you what sucks about you as well. You know, they never do, though, oddly enough. But feeding the trolls is really bad. But unfortunately, I'm a petty person at times. And so I love to just bash and insult. I did a 250th, and I've talked about it before. I did my 250th video. There was a guy who was a subscriber, wanted me to do music reactions. I did them. Before I did one of the reactions, I had just gotten news that somebody I had worked with, their child died. And mentally, I wasn't processing the video. And so I guess I paused it during a guitar solo, but my mind wasn't into it. And I was talking about my uncle who was in a band. And so it wasn't good on my part. I shouldn't have done it. At the same time, I just kind of mentally checked out in a way. But I was like, oh, it was good. But people didn't like it because I paused here or I spoke here or whatever. And I got a ton of backlash for that video. So I made another video of that reaction. And, in that video, my reaction screen was over here. I then I reacted to my reaction, and it was like half a screen. And all I did was say how great of a job I did, just really being a jerk, just like over the top, like, oh my goodness, the way I spoke right here was amazing. And then I would pause the video and I would read comments of the people that had just made nasty things because they didn't like them. And then I would point out my opinion of them, it was nasty. It was nasty. I said some terrible things. I pretty much called one guy a pedophile. Told somebody else they should throw themselves down some stairs. But that was my way of saying I can be just as mean as you can be. And there were people that were like, you should be the better person. I was like, I am. I'm already the better person than them, but I'm just letting them know that I'm also better at insults. And there were some people who were like, you're just mean. I was like, well, don't visit my channel. Like, I don't care. Was it the right thing to do? No. Should I have not done that reaction? Probably not. I should have, but it happened. And if you want to get dirty and try to like insult me, just because I have a channel doesn't mean I'm not going to give you a piece of my mind as well if you're going to do the same thing. So I understand what he's saying. I just disagree.
With regards to the positive comments and the praise, all of that's bad for the ego. And I don't think that it is beneficial for me to consume any of that either. Now, if you want to engage in the comments and have entertaining discussions, then by all means do you. I'm sure it's great for the algorithm, but if you don't see me down there, you know why. When it comes to supporting this podcast and these efforts, the greatest form of support that you can show is by sharing the content if you believe that it is beneficial and that it resonates with you or that it will resonate with others, that you share it with friends, family, and community members.
Sorry. When I get positive feedback, when people are like, oh, that was funny. Oh, hey, you did a great job. I appreciate that. Da, da, da. I always typically respond with, hey, I'm flattered for the comment. Thank you. Blah, blah, blah. But I never take anything that's said serious because I don't think that I did a good job. This is my own thing. I never think that I said something funny when somebody was like, "Oh, that was funny." I'm like, "Oh, I appreciate it." I never think it was funny. Hey, no. I never think it was funny. Not that I don't think it was funny because I feel like I'm a goofball and sometimes I try and it doesn't. I don't know. the The insults trigger me to get angry and I fight back. The compliments, I'm just kind of like, I don't. They were just being nice. Like I don't know. I guess I can't take the compliment. I can't even at work. I can't take compliments. People say something like, "Hey, you did a great job on that," and I'm like, "Well, it was da da." And some people are like, "Just shut up. You did good." And I'm like, "Yeah, okay." But I was always told that you know, compliment gets shared and criticism gets a compliment gets shared amongst everyone, but criticism is always there. So I take the criticism, but the praise I feel like it's everyone. It's just kind of weird.
That you think would benefit from it. If you want to support this podcast, because money makes the world go round, and the more that I'm able to get support from people like yourselves, the less I have to work at ABC Company. And the less that I work at ABC Company, the more time and effort and energy I can put into producing this, as well as other projects that will be coming. Because this podcast is just the beginning. Eventually, the website will host courses as well as community forums that all supporters will be able to benefit from and have access to. In the past, I used to use Patreon as a platform for people who wanted to support the work that I was doing. The platform gave followers and listeners the ability to financially support the efforts so that we could continue to produce and promote the content that was being put out. So those of you that would like to support this podcast financially, you'll definitely have the opportunity to do so. And that will be directly through our website, gendiversity.com. And any of you that choose to support this project will have eventually access to all of the courses that we put up on gendiversity.com, as well as the general community forums that will be present there. Just like Patreon, you'll have the ability to donate on a recurring basis, whatever amount that you feel comfortable with. There's no specific perks associated to donating more if you decide to do so. My experience in the past is that the vast majority of people who supported the projects that I worked on didn't look at it as something that was transactional, and they were just hoping to gain the reward of supporting something that they believed in. That being said, courses are going to take some time to produce, and I am not going to rush myself in any way. The main priority right now is just to get the podcast off the ground, up and running. But we're not going to wait until it's perfect in order to build it, and hopefully some of you that decide to support it will help us along the way as we build it to be what we want it and envision it to be, which is a space where people come together and support each other in their efforts to improve themselves spiritually and in every aspect of their lives. Although I'm really excited about Gendiversity and I have a lot of different plans for it, I don't want to foreshadow too much. I just think it's important to note that there is a plan and there is a lot of things that will be developed on that platform. The main thing right now is just getting the podcast up and going. The main focus is that
I apologize. I'm moving around because this stupid puppy was trying to pick a fight with my feet. And so I had to keep moving my foot, which apparently triggers a must bite thing. And once I got my foot away, so my foot was safe, started biting my knees. Now he just ran off and he's chewing on his bone. So I spent the past 2 minutes, I was listening, but I was also trying to save my feet.
Many of us are not living up to our full potential, myself included. I've always had a passion for motivating others and seeing them progress through their own self-development, and I would like to continue to do that. But I always have to make sure that I don't lose focus of working on myself first. So before this becomes a podcast or a platform that benefits many, it has to first start out as an audience of one.
When he said before this podcast, and I thought, if you say an audience of one, did. Nailed it. Okay. Somehow I've got these cords backwards. Okay. I'm going to figure this out before the next video. But we're going to go ahead and end this here. Get off my face, Blur. Stop it, Blur. Stop it. Okay. All right. We're going to end this here. And we will be back with an audience of one, part 1. But until then, what are you doing? Yeah, okay. He's just, I don't know what he's doing. He's stretched out. He's snapping his head sideways like he's trying to bite his ear. He's just a stupid dog. All right. Until next time, have a good day, have a good night. There's the button.